phase one problem definition, we'll go into that in the process framework that we've created. And then the actual go-to-market as well, we're leaving that for a further stage, not tackling that problem. The main focus today is phase two. So if we could go on to, this is the beginning of our framework. So all of the ideas and all of the things that we've talked about begin with the problem definition. So what is the problem that the agency is trying to solve? What is it that they need to buy or that they think they need to buy? That's where the baseline starts at. So guided problem definition in the sense of what Ben was saying, X is having difficulty with Y because of Z. So a clear, defined problem definition, which would then lead to the discovery phase to address that. And this is where we made a couple of assumptions based on what we hope our lovely colleagues in the other team, same team, have done. So some of the things that came out of the discovery phase were utilizing existing data sets, previous projects, available experts, capability matching, and buyer and supplier profiles. This is the idea of the matching algorithms, the profiles with capabilities that can be linked with agencies' needs, those sorts of things. So the assumptions were made that those things will all be well and perfectly built and integrated into this process. Again, I think that's something that will need to be obviously worked and discussed based on the solutions that you guys have come up with. So after discovery, the agencies will be able to see all of those projects that have previously been done to prevent duplication of effort. It'll also allow them to better create their brief and their business case for engagement, which will be the next steps. This will be done in a user framework similar again to the PwC one that was presented, fairly crisp and easy to use, click to edit, multiple steps and categories that are easy to fill in, not complex, and short descriptions to make sure that it's an easy process and not overcomplicated. So this is the main section that we were focusing on today in terms of engagement, selection, and collaboration. So after the brief is put up onto the platform, there will be an open call for solutions. It will be available for existing vendors in the scheme. It will be available for SMEs or anyone else who thinks that they have a solution to the problem. Along with that, based on the database, the profiles, and the capability matching, there will be updates communicated with the vendors who have put up their interest in those projects. So say you're a web design company, if there's a brief that's put up for web design, you'll be sent a notification to allow SMEs to spend less time searching for work and get engaged more in terms of visibility of the projects. Again, linked with the underlying data set, so this is under the assumption that there is that matching algorithm behind to link capabilities with availability and projects that are listed. So after engagement, the system will match the eligible vendors and suppliers in terms of their eligibility to participate in this brief. So then the agency will be able to assess, judge, and shortlist based on the supplier pitch that's presented. So when the engagement call is sent out, they say, yes, I want to participate. There will be then a shortlisting process and the selection based on the information that's attached to their profile, whether that's a video, a description of their services, or similar in terms of what solutions they can provide. So after the selection process, we go down to collaboration, and I think this is where the real value in this process comes out, is that the co-creation and the buyer plus supplier interaction really allows for, we get the next one coming up. Sorry, the last one, next one. So in this collaboration process, what we figured was that when you put those heads together, the supplier and the buyer, one doesn't necessarily know what the other one wants, needs, or can provide. So in this collaboration process, it would go back to refining the brief. So it would allow for a refining of the business case. The suppliers aren't necessarily selling something to the agency that they don't need, and the agency isn't getting something that they don't want, or they're finding solutions that they didn't know that they needed. So this is then an iterative cycle where after the brief is refined, subject to the terms and conditions of engagement, which we will explain shortly, then it goes back to the selection process. If then there is a suitable matching and suitable solution for the problem in the business case, then it can go to market, and that process can continue on from there. So governance and rules. obviously there will be a dollar limit around the projects that are listed, the number of suppliers that are able to engage in any project, particularly in terms of once the selection is done, collaboration goes back to here, no more suppliers will be able to get into this process given the time that the vendors have put into the collaborative space. The time frame, so obviously clear time frames around when the project is set to be delivered, when the collaboration period will end, those sorts of things, obviously built into the terms and conditions of engagement. The number of rounds that collaboration and briefs can be iterated in, so say 2-3 rounds, depending on the complexity of the project as well. So open versus public, that goes into the ability of new vendors to participate in the shortlisting process and get access to that collaboration space with the agencies. Policy and probity obviously has to comply to the current regulations and processes that are in place. And then collaboration incentives, which is another thing that will need to be worked through in terms of suppliers being paid for their time for that collaborative space to feed back into the brief and the business case refinement. So that's the general framework that we came up with. In terms of what's different, so again, we think that the engagement, selection, and collaboration section is the real benefit that's added to this that will allow for the refinement of the business case and the agency to define the needs that they didn't necessarily know that they had. So guided problem definition in terms of, like Ben said, you don't necessarily know what you don't know. So helping you define your problem, helping you figure out what it is that you actually need. If you only need your banana plugs, that's a pretty simple solution. If there's more complex things like ERP systems, you know, machine learning, anything like that, it helps to have that collaborative space to walk through what it is that they're actually looking for. So discovery and situation awareness, visibility of previous projects, reduce duplication, utilize existing government expertise. So this would lie in the value of the data set that's sitting behind this platform. So the matching, again, linking of capabilities with needs, profiles being filled out for vendors and agencies in terms of what they're looking for and what they can offer. The brief, problem focused, simple, business case only required for engagement phase. Again, making the user interface very easy to use and clean so that each one is consistent. That data can then be captured and reused in terms of being added to the data set. Engagement with a wide range of suppliers, pre-qualified, not SME to big end. So again, visibility, transparency, ability for SMEs to participate in the procurement process, which was one of the original criteria, is opening it up to not just the big end of town, but all levels of business. Co-creation, this is a big part of 4, 5, and 6. So suppliers are paid for their efforts, visibility of what's possible for the other buyers, well-informed business case and go-to-market. Again, this comes back from the feedback loop, so each time the business case can be refined so that the solution and the pairing between the buyer and supplier at the end is actually something that people want and have co-created together instead of something that people have contested because of the context of the engagement. Again, flexible as well, so it can adjust to the level of complexity and degrees of uncertainty of the problem. So banana plugs versus ERPs, easy example. You know, you won't have to go through and refine the business case and the need each time if you're just trying to buy, you know, a bunch of keyboards, for example. And so the steps can be adjusted and the process is reiterated as needed. So here, again, is the full framework. Happy to answer any questions. I'm sure that I have missed stuff, so team, please, if I have.
We'll leave it on that slide because that's probably where the bulk of the details is, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, is the iterative part 3 through 6, or?
Sorry, so the collaboration will lead to refining the business case back to 3, which will then go back to the selection of whether that.
Okay, by that stage you've already done the engagement, so you're still working with the same.
Yeah. So to go in terms of the flow, obviously 1, 2. This up arrow won't happen until the engagement, selection, assessment, etc. go through. Based on that, let's say you have 5 companies that are eligible or seem to be good fits. Let's create that collaborative space so that we can go redefine the business case, And then from that point, you don't need to go through the engagement again, because you've already got that. You can reassess the solutions against the redefined business case, and then from there go to market and go to the RFX process.
Ian, sorry, we also thought it could, if you look at the PwC model, they actually do a short list from the applications and then work with that shortlisted body. So depending on what the project is, it could accommodate that model as well.
Okay. And the incentive for the 5 shortlisted people, what's the incentive for the company?
6, they get suppliers are paid.
Yeah. So again, that will be something that will have to be worked out depending on the complexity of the project and who's getting engaged. We didn't really ideate what the solution might be, but some form of compensation, and the knowledge that they have been shortlisted and that through this collaborative process they're more likely to win the contract in the end.
So only either a consortium of those or a subset of consortiums or 5 individual companies can put bids up?
Yep. If that's the governance rules you set for this challenge. If the procurement challenge is you only want to come out with one supplier that you want to work through, then that's just what the rules you put in, and that's where we were feeling that the PwC model, you know, when we asked that question, it was no, it's still just one.
Yeah.
So we need something that's more flexible in being able to put those different rules in. I mean, it could be done like that.
So this as a process, effectively what we're hoping to design is something that's flexible, based on the complexity scale. So the slide that was up previously, from the very simple to the very complex, and then finding a solution for something in between. Again, depending on how complex or intricate the solution is, or the supplies needed are, you can effectively go from problem definition discovery straight through to selection and go to market. Right? You don't have to go through the collaborative phase if it's not necessary. Again, for buying a printer, for example, something that doesn't need collaboration in terms of we need to ideate how this might fit in and change business processes, and have you thought of this and have you thought of that? So we wanted to build something that through the steps each could be done in a way that could iterate in terms of the collaborative space, but didn't necessarily have to.
So what's the outcomes of collaboration? What do you see?
The outcomes of collaboration.
Yeah. So in moving on, what is it producing?
Right. Okay. So in terms of when an agency creates a business case or defines what they're looking to buy, currently, if you want to actually go to the other slide, there isn't, this part of prioritize problems and choose and develop business case, and then funding and sourcing. The vendors and industry aren't engaged until the very end, when that problem and the business case is fully put in place, right? Whereas when you're going to market with that in mind, it doesn't allow for new ideas to be injected that agencies haven't necessarily thought of. So a common theme that's come up in the past workshops is the ability for early industry engagement to help redefine what the business case actually is, because the agency might not necessarily have thought about it ahead of time.
So that's why going into collaboration, but what do you expect to come out of that?
Better outcomes for buyers and suppliers.
In terms of the engagement model, then, do you then have another engagement and selection based on that? Like, are you limiting who you go to market with based on that? Are you?
Yeah, so depending what the rules are set up, and then that's why we put in the number of suppliers there. So if we say that we want 5, we might get the brief goes out, the engagement, we get 60 people apply, 5 get down selected, go through that collaboration. At the end of that collaboration, the client agency decides, I think there's enough here for us to go to market, and to go to market meaning procure a solution that we've just defined better with one of these 5 people. Yeah. And then it goes back.
So it's with one of those 5 people.
If that's the parameters you put around the thing.
Is there a model where, so you're talking about paying those suppliers, and potentially there's a different engagement there. Potentially you've got people that can help you refine problems, and that's all they want to do.
Yeah.
They mightn't really want to be part of this go-to-market. So you could potentially establish a different relationship there, where you have people that are good at solving and refining problems just play that part, and not really want to play a part in the.
So you could separate. You could we didn't want to exclude those in that yellow process
Yeah.
to go to the market, which is currently the case. If you have early engagement now, you will often
Often
exclude
not
it
allowed it.
from responding.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally sort of unfair. So we thought that the option is to go through that collaborative process, and then the client, the agency, has the option to proceed with that based on a fair process, or go out to market, not excluding those participants that joined in that collaborative process.
And
So-
obviously an incentive of collaboration is that when it does go to market, you co-designed, co-created what you're looking for, so you're more than likely to be in a favourable position.
And we have been cautious not to redefine or streamline the procurement process. That's a conversation for another day. So just to draw that line, I think we're fairly consistent on that we're not defining the RFP process, so we're not redefining the RFP process. It's that early engagement, early industry engagement.
Yeah, and for agencies to have visibility, the discovery part is hugely important in this whole framework, given that the hope is that agencies, when they're going, before they go to market, they have visibility of, has anyone built a dashboard before, if I'm looking to build a dashboard? Are they solving a similar problem in another agency that I'm not aware of, or is there an expert in that agency that could help me define my business case better before I go to market?
I think the degree of uncertainty probably plays in that. So if it's highly uncertain, there may be people who are very good at defining that, but who may not have a solution.
Are you solving the problem of, so what I understood part of this problem was that you'd be going to market now with a perceived solution that may not really be a real problem or a refined problem. If you're not mandating or forcing an element through this phase, are you really solving that problem? Are you still going to get people sort of say, right, I know what I want, go straight to market with it? Like,
You can't force, I mean, we can't fix everything, but
but I guess part of that problem might be that the difference between that